My family's name has been etched into the history of New England's elite for generations. The Silverwoods, a lineage of old money and power, where business mergers often came with a marriage certificate. It was an unspoken rule that we were to marry within our circle, for wealth and influence to remain tightly knit. This detail is crucial for the tale I'm about to unfold. I was but a child when the incident occurred. My parents, embarking on one of their frequent European sojourns, entrusted my care to a governess. Miss Lillian was her name, a young woman of 19, whose father was a close associate of my own. It was a sweltering week in August when my story took place. They assured me they'd return in 7 days. On the third night, Miss Lillian invited her beau over, a gentleman from another influential family. She instructed me, with a sternness that belied her years, to remain in my quarters for the evening. "No matter what sounds you hear, stay put," she said. Her tone left no room for disobedience. I assumed they sought privacy for adult matters, so I buried myself in my books and let the night unfold. The chime of the doorbell broke the silence, followed by a deep, unfamiliar voice. The sounds of a television drama drifted up the staircase. Despite her warnings, my curiosity gnawed at me. I crept from my room and inched down the stairs. Peering around the corner, I caught sight of them entwined on the couch, lost in a romantic film. Content with my findings, I retreated to my room. Time passed, and then a quarrel erupted below. Shouts and sharp retorts pierced the air. I felt compelled to investigate, but Miss Lillian's earlier words reverberated in my mind, paralyzing me. A strange, suffocating dread settled in my chest, anchoring me in place. Suddenly, a scream shattered the night. A man's scream, filled with agony and terror. I thought it odd that our neighbors remained silent, but then, the television's volume was indeed quite high. Silence ensued, and with it fear took a firm grip on me. Instinct whispered that my room was my sanctuary. The house fell into a hush, save for the occasional thud from below. Nearly an hour later, the front door creaked open. An intruder? Footsteps ascended the staircase. In a panic, I dove into my wardrobe, my heart thundering against my ribs. The footsteps halted outside my door. The softest squeak signaled the opening of my door. Then, Miss Lillian's voice. "Are you in here, dear?" With trepidation, I answered, "In the closet." She opened the door, her face breaking into a playful grin. "What are you doing hiding in here?" I heard screaming, and then thumping, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. For a fleeting second, her smile faltered, her eyes turning icy. But she quickly recovered. "Oh, we were just spooked by a horror scene. I didn't want you to have nightmares, that's all." "But the banging noise?" I pressed. Her boyfriend had clumsily toppled a vase in his fright, she explained. "And the silence?" I inquired further. Her gaze hardened. "Why all the questions, dear?" I recoiled, sensing danger. She sighed, a fabricated tale of her boyfriend feeling unwell, and her accompanying him home followed. "We're good, right?" she asked, her smile strained. I nodded, and she led me downstairs to watch a film. For the next few days, she served meals with an odd-tasting meat, which I attributed to her poor culinary skills. A storm delayed my parents' return, extending Miss Lillian's stay. On the 11th day, craving a popsicle, I headed to the garage freezer. Miss Lillian called out after me, but I paid her no heed. Opening the freezer, I was met with a ghastly sight. The severed head of her boyfriend, Liar, scrawled across his forehead. I stifled a gasp, closing the freezer slowly. Before I could turn, Miss Lillian's arms wrapped around me, a cold blade at my back. "Sweetheart, I've done a terrible thing," she cooed, her breath hot on my ear. "But you'll keep our secret, won't you? For your own sake." Tears streamed down my face as I nodded. She kissed my cheek, a twisted version of affection, and left me there, trembling. Years passed, and Miss Lillian remained a spectre at family events, always reminding me of our secret with a sly wink. I avoided her as much as possible, the memory of that night haunting me. Now, as I've taken the reins of one of my family's corporations, my parents announced it was time for me to meet my betrothed. I arrived at their estate, only to be greeted by Miss Lillian, adorned in a dress as if she were already celebrating our union. "What is she doing here?" I asked, my voice laced with dread. "Son, meet your future wife," my father declared, gesturing towards her. As she stepped closer, her finger traced a line up my throat. "We're going to be so happy together," she whispered, her voice laced with a threat. And there I stood, my parents oblivious to my terror, realizing I was bound to a monster with no escape in sight.